Hello and welcome to another edition of Conversations with IB. Unfortunately, we couldn't meet last week because I had to honor a very dear friend who passed on. And of course, the week before, we had our usual session. This evening, we were supposed to have the Honourable Minister for Youth and Sports Development joining us. And I believe he will still join us, but he is currently in transit. And so we will begin the conversations. Hopefully, he meets us somewhere along the line and we will take him on. But my second guest for today is Hanotu Welly. Hanotu Welly is currently Nigeria's representative for the Youth Hub of the United Nations Trade and Development Organization, UNCTAD. Uh, he has, for the very longest time, organized an annual youth, I like to call it development program, the 36 Forum, where he brings together young people and they have conversations around growing a next generation of effective and efficient entrepreneurs. Hanotu plays in the tech space and does a lot of things. And I call him my Mr. Techie. Everything tech is Hanotu. Um, but above all that, he's an entrepreneur, and I say a serial entrepreneur that has tried his hands on other things outside tech. But my biggest thing about Hanotu, and I say that with a huge sense of pride, is the fact that he believes. Hanotu, you're welcome to Conversations with IB.
Thank you so much, Ma, for having me. Thank you.
Great. So let's talk about your recent event. You just finished the 36 Forum. You know what is it all about? What is this 36 Forum?
Okay, so the 36 Forum is a non-governmental organization that's focused on human capital development, and well, we're more focused on, anyways, youth development, mostly in the Niger Delta. And what I tried to do in 2017, I got back to the country, and then I was so interested in giving back. I was so interested in working with a lot of youth because I noticed that one major problem we had was collaboration and working together. I wanted to focus on taking tech to local communities, to people that have never, even seen a laptop or a computer before. I wanted to, take technology to those communities, but I wanted to start with a conference. I wanted to start with a forum. I felt it was necessary to know the youth in this space before I start projects like that. So that was the main reason we started the 36 Forum for a gathering of young people, mostly from the Niger Delta. I needed to know these people, and then we talk about collaborations. We talk about how we can actually partner to, scale up in our different businesses, and also to um, 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 also develop the Niger Delta as well. So that was how the Texas Forum was actually birthed. Yeah.
So you birthed this thing with this initiative around supporting young people in the Niger Delta. But let me ask
Yes.
what I consider a very critical question. In terms of young people, um, I look at it and I wonder why we're talking about young people today like they cannot hold their own. When you think about the fact that Colonel Ojuku,
Yes.
Colonel Gowan, were all
Yeah.
in their 30s.
Yeah.
Gowan ruled Nigeria in his 30s. The Alfred Dieter Spieth that people refer to all the time and continue to refer to today was a very young man when he was governor of Rivers State and went ahead to have all of these initiatives of the secretariat and all of those things we continue to reference. But even coming closer, a lot of the political players today started out their careers as young men in their 20s and 30s, and they held government position. I know that I started being an editor in my 20s. So, quite frankly, why do we suddenly talk about people in their 20s and 30s like they have nothing to offer? When, as young professionals, we were actually managers at that age. What is wrong with the picture? What's going on?
Okay, well, so I think I think the old me would have blamed the government for this, but I started having a lot of conversations with young people, and I noticed that it's actually not from the government. It starts from, you know, their homes. It starts from, the family and how they were brought up, basically. So a lot of young people um, actually, or most of the things they do is because of how they were brought up. Now, I'd say that it also has to do with mindset as well. That's a very important thing. We need to actually work on the mindset of young people first before we actually start thinking of other, you know, factors. So the mindset is very important. We need to see how we can actually change the narrative when it comes to that. We need to work on that first, and then we can now talk about other factors or other things that, well, the government comes in at some point. But the first thing that I think is really important is changing their mindsets. So from how they were brought up and what they feel is the right way to, the right things to do. We need to also change all that first before we start thinking of other things as well. And after that, because they say like charity begins at home, after that, we now start thinking of, okay, where's the government actually getting it wrong, and where are organizations that are not also supporting young people as well. We now start thinking about that. So first things first, we need to we need to also understand that, you know, most of these young people and the way they, react to things and certain things they do is because of how they were brought up. So mindset is actually like a key factor.
Okay, so mindset is a key factor, and I
Yeah,
hear you.
yeah,
But mindset begins from the socialization of the young person at home. Education, what kind of education are we giving? I mean, now even colleges like Eton and other colleges are going
yeah,
beyond just throwing out academic learning, and they're beginning to prepare young people for a world that really doesn't have enough government jobs anymore. Populations are exploding, okay? And of course, there's a lot less to go around. So everybody needs to begin to think about what they can do for themselves. And
yeah.
the education system outside here, I think, is providing for young people being prepared not just to go into the job market, but to start from the get go to think about what they can do to add value. And today's young person, really, when you look into their minds, understand that they can do multiplicity of things and want to do multiplicity of things. So, where is the place of policy in terms of the kind of educational background or the kind of things we're teaching? And I'm talking of in Nigeria. I listened in on your meeting, during the week, and that was something that came across the fact that young people are saying, in terms of skills, the skill gaps are such that we're not able to be available to do everything. So where's the place of policy, and what are organizations like yours doing to kind of help us relearn?
Okay. So I would like to focus on Tactics Forum. So basically, what we do is we set up initiatives like the one we recently just set up, Skill Bank Certification Scholarship.
Mhm,
I personally believe I feel it's time we start thinking towards, you know educating yourself, like self development, and
mhm,
also um, making out time to, learn apart from just classroom education. You need to, as a young person, whoever it is, not just young people, you need to, develop yourself.
mhm,
It should be a part of you. So
mhm,
I feel that there are certain policies that need to be set up by the government that can work with most of these organizations, because
mhm,
it's also um, there are actually certain things that limit us as organizations. In terms of most of these trainings we want to do, most of the
Mhm.
places we actually want to go to, or most of the people we actually want to reach out to, most times the policies set up by the government do
Mhm.
not work for us as organizations here.
Mhm.
So I feel it's time that more organizations start looking at, creating more skills, looking at
Mhm.
most of these institutions as well,
Mhm.
and looking for the right skills, looking for the right courses that that would actually put young people in the global market. So we need to start thinking of ways to also collaborate with most of these institutions. There are so many opportunities actually out there. Last week, I actually reached out to MIT. I actually reached
Okay.
out to MIT, and that was because of the skill bank certification scholarship. And then I was thinking, the way the world is moving now, everything is now automation and digitization. So young people, whatever you're doing, you need to understand, at least just understand, you know, how the tech space works, or understand the basics. If it's digital marketing to scale up your business online, you need to understand these things. So I sent them an email, and they actually reached out to us, but anyways asked for other documents, other stuff that they needed to process this. But my point exactly is, there are lots of opportunities there. There
Okay.
are lots of institutions that are actually open to collaborating with a lot of organizations here in Nigeria. So a lot of organizations need to start reaching out to these schools, reaching out to these institutions, so we can find a way to work together for young people in the region.
Let me ask you a question, Hanutu, because
Yeah,
a young person is seeking opportunity, and I don't know
yeah.
any young person that sees opportunity and doesn't grab it. And one of the questions I think people watching will be asking you is, hey, listen, enough of the talk. Where is the opportunity? I want to get it. So, where is the opportunity hiding? Young people are
Okay, so
frustrated.
yeah. Yeah, so these opportunities are, online. The problem again, like I said earlier, it also has to do with mindset and what interests you. So
Mhm.
there are most young people that probably spend data. I was on a program the other day, and someone asked a question that, how am I going to, with the initiative I'm setting up, how am I
Mhm.
going to help young people with data? And I was confused, because if young people can stay online to watch Big Brother or stream these things, I don't know if they watch Big Brother online. You stay online and you spend so much data on things that interest you, like probably going on blogs, right?
Mhm.
You should
Mhm.
also, as a young person that is focused, and that you actually want to help yourself, you should think of ways that you can save up, or whatever it is, to take
Mhm.
care of these things. It's funny how a young person will tell you he doesn't have data to do a course, but you always have, so much bandwidth to go online to listen to or watch these things. So my point exactly is, at some point there's a certain level where we should also talk about the ISPs as well,
Mhm.
internet service providers, and you know them also working with us as organizations, because everything now is going, to on the tech space. So
Mhm.
we need to also work, or they need to actually work with us to find a way that they can actually subsidize these things, the prices for young people as well, to, even if it's with low bandwidth, but
Yeah.
for young people to be able to, access the internet. We can set up like this whole thing is like a cycle, so we all
Mhm.
work together. It's
Mhm.
the youth in the middle, and we have the ISPs, we have the organizations, we have the government. We all need to synergize and see how we can help young people, because the way the world is moving, I unfortunately, the curriculum as well, I don't know, when it comes to the educational part, I
Mhm.
just feel like the curriculum is not just right. So I feel like there's a whole lot the Ministry of Education as well. They also have a big part to play in this too. So you see, it's a cycle. We all have to work together. Organizations are there to help. Actually, there are so many opportunities from Udemy, Coursera. Recently, I heard Slum to School is about to start. Orondime is about to start something as well. So there are lots of e-learning platforms for a lot of young people. But I feel that it all has to do with priorities as well. They have the young people that know how important these things are, and they have the ones too that are actually not interested. So it has to do with the person.
Mm. Now, one of the things that came out strongly at your 36 forum was a matter of young people and politics. Okay. So it's one thing to say people should learn, and yes, so they go and they learn, and even if they have to borrow data and they learn, then what? Then what? People have to survive. So they
Yeah.
do all this learning. Okay. A young graduate. Let me paint a scenario. You graduate from
Okay.
the University of Ibadan, which
Yeah.
I still think is one of our topmost. You graduate from Covenant or any of the private universities. You graduate from MIT or Harvard or even a regular school in the US. The three of you go for a job interview. Who are they likely to take?
Probably one that went to Covenant or the one that attended the private university, I guess.
So you attend a private university or you school abroad, you get a job. And yet,
Yes.
I still
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that you go to our universities in Nigeria and they have some great lecturers.
True.
What
True.
is going on? So ab initio, isn't the young person in Nigeria already disadvantaged if he does not have the space or the wealth to go to any of these other schools? What kind of hope can we give to young people in this situation?
Okay, so that's where the government actually comes in, and also, yeah, well, the Ministry of Education is actually under the government. So at that at that point, I feel like they have a very, they have a major role to play. That's the government because I understand what you're saying when it comes to, someone schooling abroad and the person comes in and then they are open to they actually get jobs in the job market. But you see, I feel it's it's actually very key for the government to start thinking of ways that they can restructure the educational system, because that's the first thing. You find someone that went abroad to school, and the person understands, how to probably use a computer for basic stuff like PowerPoint, Excel, and all that. And then you find someone in the Nigerian university space that cannot even use a computer. And it's so sad that, with all due respect to most of the lecturers, there are some that I know as well that can't even use a system. So if a lecturer cannot use a computer, and I mean from the computer engineering department, the faculty, if the lecturer cannot use the computer for basic skills, how does he pass that knowledge to the students? So it starts from the
But
government.
Honorable, isn't there a responsibility on the part of the students to be self-taught? When we went to university, we read beyond the
Yeah,
syllabus. When
yeah.
I went to university, I read beyond the syllabus. I went searching. Okay, what the university gives you is an ability to be able to search. The
Okay,
university
ma. So
gives you the
yeah, so I feel
privilege and the opportunity to search, to be self-taught. Isn't there
okay, ma. So
responsibility on young people to
so most of these
identify?
Yeah. So most of it, like I said, we're in a digital space now. The
Right.
in fact, the post-COVID era is all digital.
Mhm.
So this same thing, we still have to think of ways that we can help a lot of young people in schools, because I remember there was a program we wanted to start recently, a digital,
Mhm.
it was called Adapt, digital literacy program, and then
Right.
we're meant to get young people tabs or
Mm-hmm.
computers to be able to access the internet,
Okay.
right? And then we noticed that most of these young people, most of them are from places like, in fact, okay, their parents can't afford these things. Their parents can't afford even a tablet. And then we started thinking, okay, why don't we reach out to most of these tech firms for
Mm-hmm.
probably Huawei for refurbished computers, so we
Mm-hmm.
can we can give it to these students in schools.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about self-development, we also need to look at the era as well.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is going digital, like I said. Do they have access to a computer? Do they have access to, most of them don't even have like smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
So this is where the government comes in. We can set up like a loan scheme or something where they are probably paying a certain amount monthly, even if it's five, if it's 10,000 a month, the government can probably pay 5,000, and that child or that student is paying 5,000 naira just to subsidize it. But
Mm-hmm.
it's very important right now that you know every child, every young person should have access to technology. It is that
Okay, so
important. Whatever
it
you're
brings me back
doing,
to so
yeah.
it brings me back to the matters. Oh, the Honourable Minister is joining us. Let me bring
Okay.
him on. Honourable
Okay.
Minister, it's good to have you join us, and I know it's been a busy period for you. Thank you for joining us, for making time in spite of your very, very crazy schedule. I know it's been a crazy day.
Thank you,
So,
Dim. I was actually
so
airborne for an hour, but I'm glad to be part of this.
Oh, goodness. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. So,
Good
Honourable
evening,
Minister,
sir.
we're just talking
Good
about,
evening.
and Hano Tuweli, who is with you on this show, is the initiator of the 36 Forum, a youth forum that trains young people, develops them in the Niger Delta, and creates innovation hubs. And we just finished a conversation around what's happening with our young people. And one of the things he was saying was digital education and access to technology. And the fact that a lot of young people are too poor to access technology. And I remember having a conversation with you, and one of the things you talked about was setting up youth hubs across the country. That's a big deal because we're saying a child graduates from Covenant, a child graduates from University of Ibadan, a child graduates from University of Liverpool, and the three of them go into the job market in Nigeria. The employer just goes, I grab the one from Liverpool and the one from Covenant, and I'm not grabbing the other one. And the difference is access to technology. So, Honorable Minister, your big brief is youth development. What are you doing in terms of providing access for young people? Because our young people feel shortchanged.
Thank you so much. I think that you've touched on a very germane issue when it comes to youth development. I think for Nigeria, it cannot be any different when you look at other parts of the world, particularly in Asia, in Europe, in North America, Canada. Youth development is not possible without access to technology. And beyond even access, the, the kind of education that you need to prepare you to be able to use the technology is critical.
Mhm.
At both levels, we do not have the the percentage of youth that we need to have. But beyond that, we don't have the infrastructure, even through our curriculum in our schools, and even when they come out. Because even when you finish your first degree, you can still go out and embrace the technology through training. So it's been an overriding concern for me as Minister of Youth Development. And of course, when I started, one of the first things I did was to conceive of what I call the Digital Youth Nigeria. Based on data and statistics, it was clear that there was a digital skills gap in Nigeria. There were jobs, digital jobs, but we didn't have youth with the requisite skills to pick up these jobs. Even beyond jobs, in several sectors of the economy where innovation was needed, in several sectors where we needed to add value, to what is being produced through technology. That was completely absent. So we felt, well, there was a need to find a strategy to ratchet up the numbers of our youth that have digital education. And you can't separate digital education from technology. Without technology, you can't talk digital.
Right.
The government, on its part, had several other programs going, but we felt that if we could start something like the dy.ng with the goal of providing our youth with the digital skills they need through training, both offline and online.
Right.
We didn't even know COVID-19 was coming because basically now what we've been doing since March, we've moved every training online. Of course, eventually with social distancing and all that, we hope to return back to a bit of offline. Offline is important because of the vast of our youth that don't have smartphones, they don't have
Right.
Wi-Fi, they don't have money for data. They also need to be trained. But we've
Yes.
succeeded so far to train at the last count 15,000 youth. And you know, it's a small number. But when you look at where we're coming from, if not for COVID-19, we will have been looking at about 150,000 so far. Working with Digital Africa, Digital Nation Africa program of IBM, in collaboration with dy.ng of the Ministry of Youth and Sport. Digital tools training in about 25 different areas. And once you finish your training, you get certification. That is just one level. But when you look at a broader approach, it is not just for government alone.
Right.
What are institutions, education institutions doing? What are corporate organizations doing? What are churches and other groups doing to make sure in a deliberate way they apply technology, but also provide the basic fundamental training for their youth on how to use technology? When you talk about technology, it's not just about computers. You know, the simple idea of applying IBEE. One of the things I love to talk about is infusing technology into vocational skills. A vulcanizer on the side of the road who he fixes the tires the same way. Is there a simple technology out there that can shorten the time in which he fixes your tire? 40 minutes. Is there a technology that you can introduce to him and train him that will shorten that time from 40 minutes to 20 minutes? Which means if he was fixing 5 tires in a day, with that shortening, he can fix triple that amount. That increases his revenue. It adds value to the process. Somebody who is a chef who cooks and sells food, uses plywood and the rest. Beyond gas, are there other technology you could use? Then you talk about solar. It's a whole broad spectrum. But let me
Right.
just say, so that I won't stretch too far, that the digital skills gap that we have in Africa and Nigeria is a big problem. Data has shown that jobs exist, but our youth don't have the digital skills that is necessary for a digital economy. And until we put resources in that direction to ratchet up the numbers, and it starts from the educational institution, it starts from deliberate government policies, and then in a concerted effort, we can start to change the narrative.
Wonderful, Honorable Minister, because I was going to go to you on that and saying, yes, yes, organizations, corporations, people need to do something, but policy. What is happening? Question is going to be, do we have a deliberate youth policy that we can look at? I know that there was a conversation around the youth policy, there's a gender policy, and we have you. And one of the things we can talk about you is the fact that you were on this side of the divide, insisting that government does it right. Now you're Honorable Minister for Youth. What are you doing in terms of ensuring that young people and matters that concern them are mainstreamed in all of government conversations? As a member of the Federal Executive Council, you should be talking to them, whether it's education or health or commerce or trade. What are you doing in saying we have to have a deliberate youth policy that insists that young people are at the fore of any of the things we're doing, across all ministries? Because this is where you come in.
Well, thank you so much. I think I'll talk about what we have been doing and what we plan to do. There is a national youth policy, and it's from 2019 to 2023. That national youth policy was passed about 2 years ago, and every year it enjoys a review. It might interest you to know that in the national youth policy, there are 13 thematic areas. 13 thematic areas. So when people hear youth and sports development, they think the ministry is only about youth and about sports, or youth in sports. The thematic areas cover youth and sport, youth and education, youth and science and tech, youth and environment, youth and drug abuse, youth and health. So you can see it's cross-cutting. So the mandate of the ministry is clear. How do you advance the interest of the youth in terms of development, especially in all these thematic areas? And it places on us the responsibility of finding the connector when it comes to health. How will the youth be connected to whether innovations in health, opportunities in health? When it comes to sports, how do you get the youth to be in the front lead when it comes to sports? When it comes to science and tech, when it comes to ICT, how do you do that? So the focus now seems to be largely on ICT. But that's because technology trumps, it covers virtually all these fields of endeavor. E-commerce is there. E-health is there. Esports, now a 1.38 trillion business. Esports, 1.38 trillion. So you see virtually all these 13 sectors, technology underpins them, which is why there might seem to be an over concentration on technology and digital knowledge and skills. It's because if you want to be really successful in commerce or business, you need a bit of e-commerce. On Monday, I'll be bringing a young boy from Katsina amongst 4 youth to want to reward for their innovative minds, who developed a software that connects local youth farmers in different local rural farms around Katsina, Kaduna, and the rest. They produce tomatoes, etc., but they are not able to find farmers, so that their produce won't go bad. Their family will consume half of the produce. They manage to sell half below the market price. Now he has developed a software. Rural farmers, you need just the most basic education to be able to, on your phone, send a text. I am in Zangandaura. I have 10 baskets of tomato. Once you send a text through this software, they're able to locate you. And then somebody goes there to buy. That is e-commerce. It might be at the most rudimentary, but that is using technology to advance e-commerce. So the national policy is there. The DY.NG is there. But also, let me tell you, my interest you. We have the Nigerian Youth Employment Action Plan, which is almost the leitmotif to make sure that our youth are developed in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of engagement, in terms of technology. That has not come full stream because it's just undergoing a final review with our partners, the ILO and the UNDP. And I think that it's taken a bit of time for it to come round, but I think for the youth of our country, what we've done in the last 1 year is to chart a new trajectory. And when 3 weeks ago, the Federal Executive Council under President Buhari approved Nigerian Youth Investment Fund to the tune of 75 billion. That opened a new vista for our youth. It is like a youth bank that challenges the minds of our youth. That if you have an innovative idea, if you have an enterprise, you can get some level of state funding, a soft loan that can help you further develop your applications, further develop your invention, further advance the frontiers of your innovation. And I think that on an incremental basis, if this is sustained, because we are building a sustainable model, our youth eventually, and I always say, AIBEE, I have seen in 1 year the opportunities that exist for our youth, either digital or analog. I've looked at the quantum on the part of government and on the part of the private sector. And I've been asking myself, why is there so much outcry that there's nothing for the youth? The simple answer is that our youth do not apply themselves to these opportunities. It is about applying to yourself. You search for them deliberately because they're scarce. And then when you find them, you apply for them. They prefer to send their name somewhere to be favored than to go online and apply for that opportunity. They prefer to spend 7 hours surfing the net for entertainment than to look for an additional online training. There's so many modules of training online. You get certified, and then once you get that information, that training, you can get a loan. That's why we brought the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund. So that, let me say this, Silas Adekunle, the 22-year-old Nigerian who lives in the UK, is now he developed the first gaming robotics in the world. I met with him sometime in December. He gave me a demonstration of what he did. Silas Adekunle came to Nigeria, wants to set up a robotics lab. Okay?
Yeah.
And he says all he needs is about $5 million. Between December and now, I've not been able to help him. As soon as the youth fund was approved, you could get between 250,000 naira to 50 million naira. I called Silas. I said, Silas, you can now apply. I will gladly make sure that Silas gets the fund he needs, the maximum of 50 million, to come and set up a robotics lab in Abuja, where at least 100 youth can be trained every 2 months on robotics engineering. That is the way to go. And that is also government driven. So, AIBEE, I think that we have started a new trajectory. And we think that eventually we can hit a critical mass when government invests more in our youth, when the private sector in a deliberate way also support our youth, and then when we work with multilateral organizations and donor agencies, we can build a critical mass for our youth.
Honorable Minister, I'm going to play the devil's advocate very soon, but I think Hanotu is dying to ask a question. So Hanotu, I'm going to hand over the minister to you to take a part before I come back.
After
Hanotu, go ahead.
Good evening, Honourable Minister.
Good evening.
My name is Hanotu Weli. I'm fine, thank you, sir. I'm co-founder of the 36 Forum and also Youth Action Hub Coordinator in Nigeria, an initiative set up by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. My question would be from UNCTAD, sir. My question will be from the human capital development angle. Recently, my organization was going to set up an initiative in the Niger Delta called DAP, Digital Access Project, which was going to be focused on young people in universities and trying to see how we can get them tabs or laptops to be able to access their modules from the university. And now, one major problem is collaboration and also access to the government as well to see how we can actually work together to achieve these kind of initiatives to make this a success in the Niger Delta, in the region. I try to focus on the Niger Delta. I feel like I have more interactions with a lot of young people from this region, so I know what their needs are. So my question, sir, would be, how can we collaborate with the Ministry of Sports, Youth and Sports rather, to see how we can actually make this work in the region?
Okay, Welly, thank you. I think that I have some good news for you. If you approach the ministry with your DAP project, digital access project. Am I right? Is it digital
Yes, sir.
access program or project?
DAP, Digital Access Project.
Now, if you approach the ministry with your proposal, just in its simplicity as I've had it, is also profound. The ministry will be able to plug you into our dy.ng and see how we partner with you in a collaborative way. Using what you're doing in Delta as a pilot, it fits very well into our dy.ng, but also it fits into two of the programs we have for the 12-month economic sustainability plan, where we have to create jobs for at least 500,000 or 1 million of our youth. But also, let me say, in this age of mobile applications, you might want to look at it from two perspectives: the laptops and the small tabs. But also, you cannot discount the power and the strength of mobile applications. Right now, I had the choice of working on a laptop to be part of this conversation. I am flying between cities. I forgot my laptop at home. And now I'm doing that effectively on my phone through my smartphone through a mobile application. And I know cities in China and Asia, what they do is through mobile applications. So I want you to also consider using tabs, using laptops, and also using mobile applications. Let me tell you
Thank you, sir.
what IBM has done that has really helped us to train people. And I know yours is towards having educational models. Is it educational,
Yes.
academic,
Educational, more from the tech angle, anyways.
tech angle? But don't also
Yeah.
forget that outside of the confines of the educational institutions, there are young people out there who are not within the educational uh, institutions who are also brilliant, and if given similar opportunities, can also excel. We need to break away from this conventional university polytechnic education as the only where you will find the youth that can make a difference. One of the things I did when I came on as minister is to reprofile and redefine the definition of youth. And I said, what qualifies you as a youth? Basically, first is your age, not whether you're a diploma holder or a degree holder. And then once you fit into that age, we have to now develop programs that you can apply yourselves to. What you expect a degree holder to do, you'll be shocked that somebody that has not been to a polytechnic or university, I've seen some of them develop applications, while somebody with a university degree is struggling because there are two different things. When it comes to innovation, it's something that is inbuilt, you cannot see with your eyes. Oftentimes, our degrees are based on what we're able to write. But my point is this: I think that your what's the program again? DAP. Your DAP program.
Digital Access Project.
Yeah. If I get more details, it excites me, and we can see how we can partner and support you there. And then we use what you're doing in the Niger Delta as a model, as a pilot. And once it's successful with lessons learned, we want to replicate it in other geopolitical zones because we have our youth all across the country and we want to impact their lives.
Okay, so Honourable Minister, like I said, I want to play the devil's advocate. Everything you've said is brilliant. We're listening to it, and it sounds great. But here it is: the people who get this access are the big men's children. Those that I have in Kayama and Join Krama, who have no access, who are neither in the UK nor even in Port Harcourt or Lagos. How do they even begin to have a conversation you will see? How does that child? I was privileged to have been part of a girls in engineering, mathematics, and science competition a couple of years ago. And one of the things we saw were the kinds of creativity in local schools, in rural, far flung communities. in places in the Niger Delta that are not even accessible by roads. And one of the children came up with a really brilliant thing. She had this, I looked at her model, and she was creating an opportunity for lights using a candle, but to make the light somewhat. So she used a lot of mirrors so that she could read at night. So you have a lot of young people with creative talents in very far-flung rural communities. Honorable Minister, how do you plan to reach the vulnerable, the unreached, those in my waterfront communities, those in the rural villages of Oyo and Oshun who have no access to
And
anybody
Kano.
and Kano?
Now, I think honestly, that is a very brilliant question, and one of the issues that have really engaged my mind. You will see that when I told you that I try to redefine and do a proper profiling of the youth of this country. That was one of the reasons that came to my mind. Because our concept of youth is so urbanized and restricted that we think the youth are just within the cities and the urban centers. And once you can reach a couple of youth, most of them from rich homes anyway, they get to know about the opportunities, they get to know about the access. Government goes for them first and then showcases them. And the swath of our youth who are sweating it out, who are talented, who are in the villages are left out. So the first approach, and I'm an advocate for that, and I've said it repeatedly, the government needs to be deliberate. Even based on the policies we have now, the government must be deliberate in seeking out these individuals in the hinterland and providing them opportunities. I like what is happening at the Ministry of Agriculture. Last month, they began the registration, though they call it digital registration, of 150,000 farmers in the rural areas. They said youth, but with a concentration in the rural areas. Because also, they need to get them in a database and through that database be able to reach out to them. That is a deliberate policy. So even with our existing policies, government must be deliberate in making sure that it fans out to the nooks and crannies. It must be deliberate. And then as we develop new policies towards youth development, creating opportunities for youth, we must build in a deliberate policy or system or mechanism that will not just fetch the youth in the urban centers, but also access the youth in the hinterland, from Kotungora to Oloibiri to uh, Tudunwada and the likes, and Malumfashi. Let me tell you what we've done. With the Nigerian Youth Investment Fund, we're going to have a portal. And yesterday, I told the focal group, this is going to be different because with the portal, everybody that wants to apply for the loan will have to come to us. I said this time, yes, those that can come to us should come to us. But we're designing a process in which we're going to go out to people. How do we do this? We're going to go out in search of youth in far-flung areas through a team of field officers who can approach a youth who is busy in a granary in Malumfashi. Every morning, he has about 20 women coming with their corn and the rest to the granary and millet. And unless he grinds that, all these families will not eat or sell stuff. We want to go and search for those individuals and say, look, there's this youth fund for youth by the Nigerian government. You know that, do you need some kind of capital to buy an extra machine? Do you need whatever to fix your whatever? You can get at least 500,000 from government. This is the form. I will help you fill this form. All you need is the minimum we expect is that you have a phone, not even a smartphone. You must have a telephone number. And then if you don't have a bank account and a microcredit, they're all over. We open a bank account for you. So in a deliberate way, we're planning to have field officers who will be sent out into the rural areas. Go and look for young, as I'm driving in the car now, I've seen a couple of people vulcanizers. You understand? Youth on the side of the road. Some of them mobile repair shop, fixing laptops and whatever. Some of these youth need help, but this
Right.
is even in the city. But that's the deliberate thing we have built into that program for the youth employment fund, and
Okay.
we're looking at dedicating 40 to 30% IBIM of that fund
Right.
to those that apply from the rural areas. So it won't be that
Honorable
the
Minister.
youth in the urban centers that apply will automatically take up 90%. This is something we've developed.
Right.
And in a deliberate way, we're making sure that before we roll out, we put this to paper, we set up a mechanism with an M and E, and then we go out and see what we can achieve.
And I want to believe you. I want to jump with excitement, but here's my problem. How do I guarantee that this is not an APC loyalty reward program? That it wouldn't be about finding those who belong to Ward 1 and who will be voting for the next APC governor to then access this fund. How do I guarantee that the governor is not going to print out forms for his loyalists? So we pass the forms through the ward chairman, who gives it to the unit chairman. And by the way, even if you are in my party and you don't belong to the right camp, you don't access the funds. How do we protect the commonwealth of the people, Honourable Minister?
Well, this has been developed outside the clutches of the party. The framework for its implementation is outside the influence and control of the party. Even though government is providing the funding, we're bringing in the good governance and management of the organized private sector. The focal group I formed has 27 youth. Only about 3 or 5 of them are government type. The rest are youth that come from diverse backgrounds with experiences in financing, rural mobilization, development, some of them community-based organizations. These are people that have a bit of experience. These are people that are not beholden to the party, even if the ministry wants to go that route. These are people who will remain with us in the full implementation of what we want to do. Now, we're trying to create a tabula rasa in the sense that what really qualifies you beyond being a youth is that you're a Nigerian, and it was clearly stated. And then when you apply, and IBEE, I know it's difficult in this country, but when you apply, you see, you're going to be on merit. It's designed in such a way that it will be difficult for a senator or a governor to send a list of 40 names, because we're also creating digital footprints. Look at Empower. To a very large extent, it's been successful. No matter whoever sends your name, you must first apply. And in that application online, there's a digital footprint. Then there's a level of scrutiny and vetting that goes. So even if they submit your name and you don't cross the threshold, you don't still get it. I think no system is foolproof. Three checks in designing your templates. If you bring in the right parties and groups that will serve as watchdog, the level of error and manipulation and hijack that will come in can be reduced to the barest minimum. Like I said, it's just a new trajectory. We hope that we can make that difference. I haven't been on the
Yes.
other side talking about this, writing about this, fighting for this, and then getting an opportunity to really make the change. For me, I am challenged to make sure that in this
Right.
little area of assignment I have, I can make a difference and show that things can be done properly and people can still benefit.
And I really do wish you a lot of luck in this regard. But Honorable Minister, let's talk
I
a
lost.
little bit, and
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you. We can hear you very clearly. Yes, I can hear you. Honorable Minister, we can hear you. Hello, can you hear
I've
me?
lost. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes,
I can
yes.
Honorable
hear you.
Minister, I can hear you very loud and clear. I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me? Honorable Minister, we lost him. Well, let's hope we can get him back. Hanotu, you're still there. Um, Indeed, these are very exciting
Yes,
things,
I am.
very great conversations we're having with the Honorable Minister for youth and sports. I think he's coming right back on. Honorable Minister, we actually could hear you.
But I couldn't hear you, but I can hear you now.
Okay. And I said, these are brilliant interventions. We wish you a lot of luck in this regard. But let me ask you a couple of other questions. And I think that following the things you've been saying, the various initiatives, a lot of people are excited. I hope that we're able to use radio to push a lot of these announcements. You yourself, having the strength of the media, I'm sure that you would be able to divulge it to the lowest levels. But there's this thing that is going on. We've seen sports opening up gradually, and I'd like to congratulate you for the way you've been opening up sporting activities and sports. But there are many of us who are a little concerned that all the time when we talk sports, I don't know what it is, and I know football is a great thing, and I know you're trying to increase this, open up the space for the rest of us. But please, Honourable Minister, what is your roadmap for ensuring that we deal with the totality of sports? And please, when are you bringing back secondary school and community sports? Please. As a young girl, I recall getting involved in national, not the youth sports festival where we're having mercenaries age 20 and above, but actually secondary school competitions. Honourable Minister, what's your plan?
The very grassroots sports, isn't it?
Yes,
Now,
yes.
Ibrahim, let me tell you. 1 week to the shutdown of COVID-19, we finally signed an MOU to start for the first time the Headmasters Cup across the country that would involve 10,000 primary schools out of 64,000 because we wanted to try it. Don't forget that we have to partner with the Ministry of Education. Then we have to partner with the states that have the primary responsibility for education at that level. So we have
Yes.
signed an MOU after we worked on developing it. And that will be the first time Headmasters Cup in an institutional, yes, Headmasters Cup in an
Yes.
institutional way will start. Imagine 10,000 schools having Headmasters Cup, not just for football. If, for instance, a school is good in basketball or volleyball, so Headmasters Cup for 5 different sports. Then we also signed an MOU to bring back the Principal's Cup, which is for the secondary school, but was more focused on football. But this time is also for 5 different sports. We've signed that MOU.
Right.
The organized private sector had plugged in. Nestle was going to take care of basketball and a few other things.
Wow.
And then COVID-19 happened. We hope that by October, because the schools are shut and so many other things are just beginning to roll back to life, we already have a blueprint to bring this back with the MOU, organized private sector, the Ministry of Education, and Ministry of Youth and Sports collaborating. We are just about to start that.
Wait.
Ibrahim, I started a program called the THP program, which is called the Talent Hunt program. And that is because one of the pillars of sports development, which I came up with, was grassroots sports development. And that's what you're talking about. Our grassroots sports development is completely cut off from our sports development. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, we
Yes.
can.
So we think by developing grassroots sports. And where does it start from? It starts from the primary school, and we are targeting that. My Talent On program has directors in the ministry, Mary Oyali, my special advisor. If not for COVID-19, they are supposed to go out, map out, watch games in primary inter school sports, watch anywhere there's sporting competition, go there and hunt for talent. I named myself the chief talent hunter, and in about 5 months, I found a 9-year-old girl called Shekinat. She's a boxer, an exciting boxer in downtown Lagos. We're supporting her. I found the Yakubu sisters. They're like these Williams sisters. They played tennis with a delight. The level of dexterity is unbelievable. I found Idren, who they call the fish, a 10-year-old boy that swims like a fish, who says he wants to win a gold medal at the Olympics. We're working with him. I found another 5-year-old boy in Ogun State. As young as he is, all the boy wants to do is box from morning till night. You might think he's too young now, but this is how it starts. And we think that if we're able to get just 50, 25 talents across the country, we can use them as models to inspire people all across the country. Let me tell you, I was in Bielsa in February and I went to a sporting academy, tucked in the middle of a rainforest. I couldn't believe it. And I saw about 250 young ones. Ibim, are you listening? That place is owned by the Bielsa government, partnering with the private organization. 250 young guys between 10 and 15 who were living there, schooling there, but also as a
It's
sports
fine.
academy in about 15 different sports. And I spent a day there. The karate display, if you saw the talent these guys had. When you got to volleyball, and I said, so what happens if these boys after 4 years leave this place with this talent? How do you harness this talent? And I got challenged. And I'm building up something that will have them partner with the Ministry of Youth and Sports so that as they graduate, we can plug them to the sporting federations that we have. And that gives an opportunity to compete at the national, at the continental, at the international level. Now, COVID-19 came, but the idea is there, and we hope that we can start it and then encourage other sport academies to come up in such a way. I was impressed that 250 parents could take their children to a sporting academy to get education and develop their sporting skills in Nigeria, in the backwaters of Bielsa.
Oh, Minister, it's been really delightful having you on the program. And I mean, we want to go on and on and on, but quite frankly, I do understand that your time is spent. I also know that a lot of our guests have enjoyed every minute. I think we're going to have to bring you back again. Hanotu, thank you for joining us on the program, for the superb work
Give
you're
Thank you so
doing.
give
much.
Welly my number,
I
please.
will. I
Okay.
will. I will. This would be nice. So yes,
Thank you, sir.
that's great. We'll be glad to connect both of you and perhaps see something come out of your DAP program, Hanutu. I'm sure that that's a program that certainly would do a lot for the young people in the region. So, my dear viewers, I know you've enjoyed every minute of this. We've been privileged to have the Honourable Minister of Sport, of Youth and Sports Development, and quite frankly, a lot of what he said is music to my ears. But here's what we must do, all of us as young people and all of us as Nigerians. We have to hold his feet to the fire and hold him accountable for everything he has said. And he's not going to
Ibim,
shy
you
away
can
from
never
it.
stop being a journalist.
Absolutely. So please, my dear friends, we must hold his feet to the fire. Honourable Minister, thank you so much for a delightful time. As
Thank you
always, it
very
was
much.
a pleasure speaking with you. Hanotu,
Thank you, sir.
thank you for being with us. And next week, Friday,
Thank you,
another
ma'am.
date, Conversations with IB.
No problem. Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.